Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Frogcast. Today, we're going to be talking on the topic of grounded masculinity with Kambo with Micaiah Deull, very good friend of mine. He's actually the person that brought me to my very first Kambo session over 10 years ago. And today, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things, but specifically, sort of looking at things like his work with men's work, power dynamics between practitioner and client, and also ethical combo practice with precision and specificity. So, a little bit about Micaiah. Hold on, I gotta read here. Micaiah Deull is a master combo practitioner with 10 years of experience serving. He's trained with the IAKP, the KI, and jungle trained with the Matses. And Micaiah is a charter member of the Kambo Practitioner Collective. He's an advanced theta healing practitioner, men's work facilitator, spiritual and psychedelic integration guide, Reiki master, and transformational coach. Micaiah blends myriad modalities and sacred traditions learned on his path as a student of Amazonian shamanic medicines and traditions, the Native American church, the Vedic traditions of India, theta healing, and Reiki. He has trained as a counsel carrier and men's work facilitator with the Ojai Foundation and Sacred Sons, and as an addiction recovery and spiritual and psychedelic integration coach with Being True to You. Micaiah is a medicine carrier with the Native American Church Assembly of the Divine and a land steward with the Church of Infinite Harmony. Micaiah has extensive time studying with spiritual and shamanic teachers and indigenous medicinal plants in South America, India, Mongolia, and has devoted the last decade to studying with teachers, elders, medicine carriers, and offering his ceremonies and services through the world. He resides in San Diego, California, and travels extensively in service to spiritual seekers and communities throughout America and internationally. It's Micaiah's passion and purpose to guide and help people on their journey of healing and empowerment. Wow, what a bio. Obviously, this man has done some cool stuff in his life, and I can attest to that just as someone who's close to him and has got to witness him over the years on all of his adventures. So, Micaiah, thank you so much for your presence today in this discussion. I'm so looking forward to a formal conversation with you, even though we've had so many juicy conversations over the years. But I think you have so much wisdom to offer all of our listeners. So, thank you.
Well, I greatly appreciate the opportunity. I'm a combo nerd. One of my favorite topics. I can talk about it all day, and I'm stoked to see where this all goes.
Awesome. So, first and foremost, I always like to know, and even though I personally know, the viewers probably would love to hear as well, how did you even get into work with Kambo?
Yeah, I got into ayahuasca in 2012, and I fell in love right away. And I was sitting a lot. I had a really unique opportunity where the shaman, quote unquote, facilitator's apprentice, um, took me under her wing, and I sat with Aya probably in my first year, probably 30 to 40 times. And in just being around all of those circles with all those people, this was back in 2012, I started to see combo scars on people's arms. And I was like, what's that? And that's when I first heard about combo. I was so enchanted by ayahuasca that I was like, oh, there's a frog medicine. I got to get some of that. Like, what's that all about? This was 2012 in San Diego, and there were no combo practitioners, like not a single one, which is notable. I finally was directed to a woman named Beverly who was out in Palm Desert, like out way past Joshua Tree. And I sat with her once, and God bless her, she's a wonderful woman. She didn't have the training that you and I have now, Caitlin. So I ended up like unattended on a floor somewhere because it was the coldest place I could find. I think I just lay down on the bathroom floor for like 20 minutes and was like, dude, you're gonna die. Like you found this crazy frog stuff and now you're gonna die. But whatever happened, it was significant enough to have me go back the second time, which is when everything changed for me. The second time I received combo, I was brought face to face with the still staggering intelligence of this medicine, and it bowed me and it humbled me and it absolutely called me forward. And I continued to sit anywhere from 1 to 3 times a month for the next year, just watching through, training through osmosis and helping out a little bit. And then um, after a year sitting with that woman, she gave me a stick and was like, "You have my blessing. I hope you start working with this. I hope you start serving yourself. I hope you start serving other people." And in that very cavalier way, because there was no IAKP in America, there was no education, there was no organization. I just started serving myself a lot, like a lot, a lot. Started serving people close in my circle, friends, family, people close in the medicine circles, um, and just gotta practice. I mean, it just wouldn't have I've heard you talk about it, Caitlin, and I 100% agree. Of like, I would not recommend the way I got started in combo to anyone these days, but it was a different world back then. Like, I was on the waiting list for the very first American IAKP training, couldn't get in. It was like getting Burning Man tickets. I was on the waiting list for the second IAKP training, couldn't get in, and then they finally bumped it up to have 2 trainings in America a year versus one, and I finally got in the third time I tried to get into an IAKP training and realized that I had a few things to learn.
Yeah, I mean it's so funny because in a lot of ways our journeys were almost parallel, right? Like I was a few
Totally.
steps behind you, and I remember just kind of witnessing you on your track with this medicine, and kind of just like hopping behind you. And I think I may have been in the very next IKP training after you finally got into one. I think I got into the next one. And yeah, man, it was a different time. Like, it's so amazing how fast something can change in a decade, right? 10 years, like you said, there was no real access to information, and mentorship, or even just like exposure to Kambo. And, yeah, I'm so glad that we fell into it the way we did. It was all perfect. But like, yeah, I look back and think about just like how uninformed we were, and how just kind of like pioneering in a sense. We're just like, screw it, we'll figure it out, and just doing this stuff on ourselves with like little to no understanding. And, luckily everything went okay. But I look back and I think like, wow, I definitely endangered people with my ignorance. And I think that's, probably part of what fuels our passion for providing education now, is like we see that we can do it differently now. We have more access to information. We have better structures to actually equip practitioners. And so not everyone has to kind of like do it in this really sort of ignorant and cavalier way, as you said. And I think that's beautiful to really kind of watch the industry, or maybe industry, the field as we know it, evolve and innovate in that way, so that we can be more mindful, better trained, and really just more competent practitioners as a whole. Um, so yeah, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I cherish, being able to see you at the beginning of it and have you see me. It's I think part of what I enjoy about our relationship.
It's wild to think like we're still doing it all these years later. Like, like you have to be a click off to take this as far as you and I have taken it. Like it's at this point it is a calling, because there's no fucking way that anybody would take it as deep and as far as you and I, and especially you with everything you've done. Like, it's a calling at that point. Like, there's easier jobs, there's easier ways to make a dollar, there's more glamour. Like, I call myself a spiritual janitor. Like, I am a spiritual janitor. I am helping people clean up their messes. And it's, yeah, at this point it is a labor of love. It is a passion and a calling, and I'm grateful to be a part of it, and to, at this point, and you've got your own version of this story. Like, it feels like blinking and somehow being like an elder in the craft, in a way of like, whoa, this is fucking weird. Like, yeah, I guess I have been doing this a really long time.
Yeah, it's been a wild journey. I know that you have done a lot of work with men and sacred sons, and kind of helping bring men to grounded masculinity. I would love to have you share more about your experience in that world and in that work.
Yeah, men's work was very, very parallel to my plant medicine work. I started in men's work in 2015. Again, very similarly as I did to Combo, just pretty it was Sacred Sons wasn't even out back then. The only men's groups you could find, again, even in the city of San Diego, it was either like church groups or Mankind Project was around. I started with the Native American Church, and I started bringing Combo into the men's work equation a couple years later with Sacred Sons, who I worked extensively with Sacred Sons, but I haven't worked with them in probably almost 6 years at this point. Um, and I saw how unique the fit of Combo and men's work is, how unique and how powerful and how appropriate. And from there, I began my own. I don't know whether to call it an organization. It's more of a retreat and a program called Combo Brotherhood, in which I started doing men's rites of passage work with Combo. And I love, love, love serving men's Combo because it is a really wonderful and equalizing way to give men healthy competition and something to push against. Like men need that. Men need something to push against in a healthy way. And men, I mean, it's a trope at this point, but it is true in whatever way you choose to define it. Iron sharpens iron. You hear that all the time in men's spaces. And I love Combo in this because like I have literally served actual former professional bodybuilders who look like a superhero who were thrashing around on the ground like a fish out of water with 3 points on them. And then the person next to them is 140 pounds soaking wet, and they're sitting there with 15 points like a Buddha, like not moving at all. Like for men, it's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter who you are in quote unquote real life, the default world. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you have going on. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how much status you have. None of that matters when it gets down into the relationship with Combo. What matters is how well you can hold charge in your body, how well you trust yourself to navigate that, how well you trust the container. And I've watched it establish camaraderie and trust and empowerment within men individually and between men as people in a retreat container really, really, really quickly. Like it happens real quick because it's obvious. I tell every guy, you're out of your weight class with Combo. We are all out of our weight class with Combo. Um, and it can often be it is often sometimes with men the unstoppable force that the immovable object needs. A lot of these men need something is that they can't squirm away from. They can't. They just can't do it. And I find it to be also it's interesting in the like combo plant medicine spectrum. A lot of people are scared of plant medicine. A lot of people are scared of combo. I find it to be a good introduction for people who might be curious about Aya or other plant medicines, but can't sit with them or are turned off by the investment involved or whatever. So it's been beautiful. Men's work in combo, I think, is a wildly untapped resource. I think men's work in combo is an untapped resource. I think combo and addiction recovery work is a wildly untapped resource. I've done that a lot as well, especially with men. And I just think in many, many, many ways, it is the perfect tool for the job. It provides that softening agent that a lot of men need. It provides a team mentality right away where it's like we're all going to do this together, guys. We're all doing this together. There's zero competition. There's no way to win this. And the only thing that you need to look at, it's just you versus you. It's like, who are you in the middle of a combo trial? How do you show up in the middle of a combo trial? What does that look like for you? And it's been life changing for myself and for the men that have trusted me in these containers. And I've watched Combo turn into something else entirely. Turn into something that is far more mystical than Combo in those containers. Like Combo responds to the container. I'm sure that you've seen that in your trainings where it just turns into something else. You're like, wow, this Combo doesn't usually do this, but it's happening right now.
Yeah, and one of the things I kind of thought about when you're talking is just like the versatility of Kambo. Because here you're describing, and it makes sense, like given the historical use of it as this kind of fortifying adaptogen warrior medicine, right?
Hmm.
And kind of helping men tap into that potency in themselves in a very yang way, where it is like ordeal medicine in that
Sure.
sense, which has real value, right? Especially within a container where they can then like craft meaning that is powerful for them. And then you have like someone like me on the other end of the spectrum who's like kind of bringing the more yin and
Hmm.
teaching people that like softness and gentleness is actually the way through for some of them. And that's part of why I love Kambo. It's like it's so versatile. And I think it's important to have different types of practitioners and also different context within even the same practitioner. Because I know there's times that you probably are also working with a woman in a very soft and nurturing yin way. Um, and so this also kind of is a good segue into something that I know is important to you. And it's like, precision and specificity of a practitioner's role and why it's so important that we provide individualized approaches for each person that we interact with in our practice, because you can't just assume that everyone needs the same thing. And so that's
Hmm.
why you have to be discerning about what containers and what context, you're going to apply a certain strategy with Kambo because, if you put like maybe a chronically ill, traumatized woman in the same type of container as a men's group,
Good.
it would
Yeah.
probably cause a lot of contraction and be counterproductive for that person. Whereas
Agreed.
a man within a certain context and how they're being guided and coached in the group dynamic is probably going to have a breakthrough. So, yeah, I'd love to ask you a little bit more about just like this concepts and your ideologies around specificity and precision in a practice.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my soapboxes right now, and you're 1,000% right. Like, is someone with your course of like A being a woman and B being a person who was dealing a lot of autoimmune issues and things like this, like you were groomed by Combo in a very different way, you know? And they both have their place. They're both equally important. And like you said, it's the adaptability of Combo to be in these spaces where, it's like one person's 3 points is another person's 9 points. And we don't know until we can really sit with that person, you know? It's been like my ceremonies, and this has been reflected back to me, they take longer. They they take longer because I sit down with every single person. I do an intake with every single person. I do a drop in with every single person. Like we might be there for 2.5 hours before I even put a point of medicine on anyone because I'm going to sit there and I'm going to take the time to intake these people and to muscle test them and to look at the exact specific combination of points that they need. My practice over the years has evolved to meridian work, a lot of combo using traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture meridians and points, using marma points on the nadi lines from the Vedic system, using chakra placement, using auricular placement. And the way I look at it is there are literally millions of different point placement combinations on the human body for combo if you are using these meridian maps and also just intuition of like, yeah, sometimes the chi is a little bit off the meridian. Sometimes you're placing it directly on an organ or directly on an injury. But the point is like having an intake process in place that goes down to the health intake beforehand, knowing what the client's coming in with, knowing what supplements, what medications, their personal history. I mean, my intake form is 8 pages long, 8 pages that people have to fill out before they even sit in front of me. And I can't tell you the number of people who say, like, my God, my last practitioner didn't do this. And I'm like, well, that's a huge red flag, you know? Um, and just having, and again, like, how do they need to be served? Do they need a stronger dose? Do they need something very, very light? Do they need something non-purgative? Do they want is it best for them to get all of the medicine at the same time? Is it best for them to get a longer layered treatment? What do they need? And what see, I see that too little, and it really bothers me. Like, I don't see enough care and specificity in the way that people are held by combo practitioners because it takes a lot of time. It takes time. I'm not pumping out two ceremonies a day that take 2 hours each. Just not doing that. It takes time. It takes sitting with these people and really walking with them from the beginning of it to the end of it. And I really think that people can go to a much greater depth when that type of care is provided, when that type of precision and specificity is provided, of like, these are where we are putting the points. Here's why we are putting the points there. This is how we're going to apply them. This is what you can expect. These are the exact emotional corollaries behind these exact acupuncture points. These are the meridians it's working. This is how it relates to your intentions and what you're working on. This is how, and just also teaching them how to engage with the medicine in a way that empowers them. Like, it is one of my duties in life to help people get back together with combo, because I know so many people who have broken up with combo because they were overserved and mishandled, or both. Um, Served too much medicine, or served in this cookie cutter way where everybody gets 4 to 6 points and put on the medicine. This assembly line combo that so many practitioners do, where it's like, I'm going to give you your medicine and maybe I'll see you in 20 minutes if you're lucky. Fuck that. Like, let me sit with these people. Let me be hands on, and the depth that they can go to, because like, people miss the spirit behind the medicine because they're in freaking survival mode when they're not taken care of. And when they're nervous, when it goes from 0 to 120 like that, and when they don't feel that they've been prepared, when they don't feel that they've had the one-on-one FaceTime that they need with the practitioner, they are just sitting there, like hanging. It's like hanging onto the oh shit handle in a car, taking a corner too fast. They're like, ah, where it's like, no, like, you're missing the spirit, because everything is engaged in surviving the experience and just holding on for dear life through the experience. And I know what that's like. And fuck that, because then we miss the medicine. We miss the spirit of combo. A lot of people don't, they don't even realize. Like, I refer to combo as she, as her. And for me, it's a term of endearment. Um, but so many people refer to combo as he. And again, this heavy-handed reputation it has as ordeal medicine. I'm like, no, let's sit with half points. Let's do 4 points, and I'll serve them a half point at a time, and we'll sit with it for 60 minutes. I'll show you the she. You'll get to it, if you can sit with a sustainable dose, right? Where it's like, I always use the ocean metaphor. I'm not standing on the shore of the ocean getting pummeled by the waves of the medicine because I took so much. I'm standing at the shore of the ocean, and I am being invited by the correct dosage with the proper application to utilize my own awareness and my own will and my own intentions to walk out into that water and to meet the medicine halfway, to meet combo halfway, to meet any other medicine halfway, knowing that I am in command of this as well. Like, I can meet this medicine halfway through my breath, through the way I'm holding my body, through what my posture looks like, through what my thoughts are right now, and just serving people in such a way where they can meet the medicine, and reminding them, like, the thresholds are going to come, but there's the time in between thresholds. What are we doing for the time in between thresholds? How are we meeting the medicine? And I think that you can get so much out of it. Like, combo offers a vast color palette with a ton of possibilities for service and outcome, like how it's served and what the outcome of that is. And I really would love to see more of that in the combo world. And I know that that's something that you're teaching as well, trauma informed combo, slower combo, knowing that it doesn't have to be about attachment to the purge. Like, we might not even vomit here. this might be something different entirely, and seeing where Kambo wants to go. Like, it's not an accident to me that one of the first non-indigenous people that Kambo found itself in the hands of after coming out of the jungles in Acre was an acupuncturist, was I forget her actual name, Valencia Mendoza, but and she started doing acucombo back in the late 80s. So I just think that sky's the limit. I think it can be served in many, many, many different ways. I think every treatment and every person is as unique as a fingerprint, and they deserve to be treated as such rather than this, no, this is just how I'm doing it. This is how I serve. And that takes time. It takes tons of time and tons of continuing education and tons of reps that it just comes through commitment and devotion. You don't get it by doing anything other than continuing education and continuing to serve and learning these different ways and these different modalities. And it's an honor to continue to learn and to step into the role of teacher myself.
Yeah, wow, that was a lot to unpack. And I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you said. There's so many brilliant points that you touched on, like the importance of customization of a dosage and a protocol for each person. Otherwise we're just repeating the same rigidity of allopathic conventional medicine, right? And that's
Yeah.
part of why we come to Kambo is we want something different than this cookie cutter recipe sort of way of approaching healing that clearly has limitations, right? Because of bio-individuality is so pertinent. And then you add the bio-individuality of the frogs as well. And there's
Hmm.
really zero way of standardizing anything. And that's part of the beauty of Kambo is that it truly is a unique cocktail of phenomena each time with each session, each person. And also touched on something too is like, yeah, we as practitioners, we need to be attuned to what people need because definitely 100% agree with you that when people are hanging on for survival, right? They're in a contracted stress response, sympathetic, activation of the nervous system. I've seen it on a physiological and energetic level just shut out the spirit of the medicine and
Yeah.
they're not able to purge because if you think about it and you're running from a lion and you have to run for your life, right? All these processes get shut down that are seen as non-essential, including vomiting, right? Because you don't have time to pull
Hmm.
over and vomit if a lion's chasing you and you're about to get eaten. And so any sort of stress response or gripping or, kind of contracting is going to prevent people from having what may be actually a healthy and necessary purge. And you see them, kind of holding it in and sweating profusely and clearly suffering, but then not being able to kind of let it move through and release. And I find that when you do kind of curate the container with trust, and with informed consent and with a deeper discussion about why that person is there, they feel safer. They feel safer with you.
Yeah.
They know that you are engaged in their process, that you actually care, that you're willing to invest time and attention to help them get the best outcome. There's so many small things that a practitioner can do that communicate subconsciously to the participant that you are invested in them getting a positive outcome. And that alone can help them just feel like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
held. I'm held. This
Hmm.
person actually gives a shit if I have a good time, right? Or if I get something
Yeah.
out of this, if I'm safe. And that can unlock so much more depth for people. And that's why I think, we don't emphasize enough that the practitioner's skill and presence is so important to dictating the outcome because a person's experience, it can be make or break by the practitioner and how they sort of steward them through this harrowing journey. Um, Another thing that you kind of touched on, when we're talking about the individual needs of a participant, there, I think there has to be like this balance between giving them autonomy and power, right, over their own
Yeah.
body and inviting them to kind of touch in with what do they feel like they need and balancing that with the authority of the practitioner because it can be
Thousand
tricky,
percent.
right? Because
Thousand
like
percent.
sometimes people come in who clearly they don't know this medicine and they're trying to tell you what they want, right? And you're like, look, you've paid me as the expert. I've served thousands of people. I know what I'm doing, and I'm not going
Yeah.
to do 9 points on the back of your neck for your first session or whatever. Um, at the same time, we do have to respect the wisdom that people have around their bodies. And
Yep.
so I think there has to really be this balanced collaboration between the practitioner and the recipient so that, there's an ongoing discussion where each of you can kind of share your thoughts, your concerns, why you think this approach might be better. And if there is like a mature discussion back and forth, then you guys can kind of arrive at clarity together and
Mhm.
present your piece of why you strongly think that one approach or another is going to be indicated for this particular situation that you're kind of a team in creating an outcome together. So that being said, one has to be very careful of power dynamics, right? Because
Mhm.
I've also seen it go too far the other way, where the practitioner is so fully in their ego, they think that they know everything. They don't really have humility or even openness to kind of hear the person and what they need. And they're like, I know what you need. 10 points, and like or they're not even doing test points and they're just giving every person in the room 5 or 6 dots and looking at their body weight or whatever. So this brings an important question in of like, you know, how do power dynamics show up in a combo experience, and especially around men and women, I find.
Yeah.
So I know that's something that you've kind of talked about before just in casual conversation with me. So I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts about, what are the responsibilities and the potential dynamics that can emerge, especially with different gendered practitioners or different genders participating in a ceremony.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and I agree with everything you said. And I really, that's for me, that's where the intake process comes in. I mean, when people come to see me, they're almost seeing me for two different services. I've been working with a modality called theta healing as long as I've been working with Kambo, and I'll sit down with people and use that modality, theta healing, to access everything, to access their nervous system, to access their physical body, to access their energy body, like really tune. It's an attunement. I am taking the time to individually sit with the person and to attune not only to their intentions and to everything that they fill out on the health form that I send them, and to have a conversation about those two things, but then also to attune to them where they are right now, what their needs are, where their body's at, where their emotional body is at, where they're at, and really attuning with that. And that's, for that's I use muscle testing. I've been doing applied kinesiology for 9, 10 years now. And I just muscle test every single client. It's clear as day. This is what your body is asking for. You are, it's in my best and highest good to receive a 4 point layer treatment. Boom, yes or no. It's the body doesn't lie. It's very, very, very clear. I've had great success with muscle testing, with applied kinesiology for that. And I agree, Caitlin, 100% of it is this beautiful merger of, yeah, the client's intuitive wisdom about themselves and where they're at and what they need out of the medicine and what brings them to the medicine, meeting the expertise of the practitioner. And it's got to be a marriage of the two, in my opinion. And I've, thank God, had great success with my intake process and just knowing what people need, just knowing this is what you need, this is how it needs to be served. And as far as like the practitioner client dynamics, I mean, to me it's very simple. It comes down to cleanliness and clarity. Be clean and be clear. That's it. you know um Especially, as a man, I have served. I couldn't even I don't even know how many people at this point. It's thousands, and I'm sure at least half of them are women, even despite the amount of men's work that I've done. I've done a lot of all female ceremonies because I always had this rule where if I had enough space for five people, and if I get to four of one gender, then I cut it off for the other gender. So if I have spaces for five people and four women sign up, then I'm only going to look for another woman. I'm not going to throw a single man in there, or vice versa. If it's men, I'm not going to throw just one woman in there. So by default, I've led many women's ceremonies. And I just think that for me, it comes down to not glorifying or glamorizing oneself. Again, I jokingly call myself a spiritual janitor. I say that in all, it really kind of like it loosens it up for people, and also being very clear, like I am a pair of hands and a mouth for the medicine. That's what I am. I am not, I always tell every single room, every single ceremony, you are in the presence of a master healer and a master teacher, and it is not me. It ain't me.
I
It
love
is
that.
it is Kambo. Like I am here to serve the medicine and you so that the medicine can serve you, and really keeping myself out of it in a big way. And when it comes down to any again, and that's like clarity and cleanliness, like I am absolutely energetically unavailable for anything with my clients beyond a client practitioner exchange relationship and or whatever friendship will ensue from that because I've certainly become friends with people that I've served. It's very normal to me. But as far as being a male practitioner and being ethical and being safe, like that is huge. And that just looks like conducting oneself very professionally. Like it doesn't matter that it's this wild position that we've found ourselves in, serving this mystical frog secretion, and it's like we have to be professional. We have to be professional. I have to be professional. And that means conducting oneself in such a way that it's clean, that it's clear, that it's like, I'm here to serve medicine. I am here to keep you safe in this container. I am here if need be because I am trained as an integration coach, as an addiction recovery coach, as an energy healer. Like, I am here to do the things that are in my wheelhouse to do. If you choose to stay within my wheelhouse for integration coaching or anything like that, great. If you want referrals out to other people, great, but it's like this is what I'm here for. There's nothing else involved. And it's to make that very clear. And to also, I guess on the other side of that, it's been for me of realizing, especially as I get older, and I've been doing it longer and longer, that there's people that do look at me as a medicine man and as a teacher and as someone who carries something that they respect. And I've said this since the beginning with Combo. It demands the best of me. It demands the best of me every single fucking time. I can't serve it if I'm not at my best. I can't serve it if I haven't prepped myself. I can't serve it if I'm pouring from an empty cup. I can't and I shouldn't. And I've gotten burned out before. And so really holding it in integrity and holding it professionally and holding it as clean and clear as possible is what I'm absolutely devoted to. Because it's not an easy position at the end of the day. I mean, you know that more than most people on this earth. Like, there's a lot of responsibility involved, and people can go through really intense stuff, and it can look wild from the outside when people are experiencing big pass outs. It can bring huge stuff up for people. Um, and it's also this very unregulated kind of Wild West area, where it's like I've got to set a standard and I've got to a way, keep myself clean and clear. I don't want to say protect myself because there's nothing to protect against, but to keep myself and my practice so clean and clear that nothing sticks to it in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen so many practitioners over the years who burn out. I think that's really common. And sometimes people don't continue over long periods of time. Sometimes, they'll take breaks. I've certainly taken long breaks. I know you have too. And then we find our way back because in some ways it doesn't feel like we have a choice. It's
Yep.
like this is just who we are. And even when it's even, when you're serving people and you're just like, do I have to? But then you feel like, yes, that's what you do. That's who you are.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, yeah, for a lot of people, it's like they come in with this raw enthusiasm, and perhaps a true calling, and then they just like turn and burn. And a couple years in, they're just like totally, totally burnt to a crisp and step
Mhm.
away from it entirely, or they have something, an incident that scares them or
Yeah.
something like that. And yeah, I think like that's why it's so vital that we have these sustainable self-care practices to resource ourselves, and make sure that we're able to actually persist in being able to live our offering, because it's such beautiful work. And and it never gets boring. Like you,
No.
you would think like after this much time, um, that you'd see it all, right? But like I continue to be like, what the hell is this stuff? Like, it is boggling in the depth that it occupies of mystery and outcomes that are possible. And it's part of what has kept me interested for so long. I mean, a lot of things don't keep my interest that long, but then you find something really weird and beautiful, and then I just kind of become obsessed with it. So, yeah, what a journey it's been. I feel compelled, if you're okay with it, to kind of share a little bit about that first Kambo session that you took me on. I don't know, and just
Yeah.
kind of like reminisce a little bit about those early days because I think they're entertaining for people and also give perspective on just the different climate that there was around Kambo at that time. So, Micaiah and I had met in an ayahuasca ceremony, I think
Hmm.
2013. That
Well,
sounds about
either
right.
12 or 13. It would have been one of the two. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like somewhere around there. And we became friends, and he stopped by my house one day and was like, "Man, I've been going deep with this frog medicine." And I had heard about Kambo a few years before at an ayahuasca retreat in Iquitos in 2011. And I always thought like, "Man, that shit sounds crazy. That's like some dumb stuff only the natives would do." Like, I would like, who else was, no one would be in the right mind would ever do that. So I didn't really put much thought into it, until Micaiah came and mentioned it, and he was the first person that actually, talked about the benefits of it. Everyone else just talked about how horrible it was. Yeah, and you feel like you're dying, but then your immune system's strong. I was like, that's fine. Um, but then, yeah, you really kind of talked about this like sort of spiritual depth that there was to it, and that's all I needed to hear. And then I was like, take me with you. Take me next time you go. So, the next time that Micaiah went, he took me with him, and we drove like 2.5, 3 hours out to like desert hot springs or whatever, kind of like Palm Desert area. And the neighborhood we arrived at was a bit rough
Woo.
looking. I mean, it
Totally.
it kind of looked like a meth afflicted, neighborhood. And there's all these kind of broken down, like trailer park type vibe houses with, cars in the front yard. And then we arrive at this house, and it is like a diamond in the rough. It was like
Hmm.
had neon hummingbirds painted on the walls, and like all these beautiful, colorful like yard decorations. And we were like, whoa, this is a very different vibe than the rest of the houses in this neighborhood. And when we arrived, it turns out I actually knew these people. I had met, they were the parents of someone that I
Oh,
knew
that's
like
great.
5 years prior. And they actually were the people that had made the first DMT I had ever smoked. So there was all these like strange coincidences. But as soon as I arrived, I was like, Oh, that's a good omen, right? Like I'm somewhere like familiar. Um and yeah, bless them. They were such sweet women, but had zero training whatsoever. And they were really like pioneers of their time and working a lot with their community around addiction. They were working with like Iboga and Kambo to help
Hmm.
people get off heroin and meth and yeah, even though they didn't really have much training or understanding safety wise, they were angels in important ways for a lot of people, and I want to acknowledge that. But yeah, it was like there was like all the things that I tell people not to do, right, happening where people were walking unassisted to the bathroom. They had told me to drink a lot of water. So I think I had arrived at this ceremony probably having drank in like 5 or 6 liters of water in the hours prior. And I remember I was literally peeing like every 5 minutes, like especially on the drive home, Micaiah. Like I think I made you pull over like 8 times and then I started just pissing in a bottle in the back of the car because I probably had low key hyponatremia, honestly.
Hmm.
And there was no test point. They put the 3 points on me and, when I went back for a second ceremony, I passed out in the bathroom by myself and woke up on the ground thinking like, oh my God, this is it. I've done something so stupid. I finally killed myself. And so like that was like our first um introduction to this medicine and then yeah and then we went back to San Diego and you had been self-administering a lot and then you taught me how to self-administer and we were just these like rogue cowboys just experimenting with this powerful substance and we had no idea and then I think my roommate was like, well, can I do it with you? And then I started serving her, and then another friend was like, "Oh, can I do it?" And then it was like a friend of a friend, and then strangers. And I think practitionership kind of fell into both of our laps,
Totally.
right? And part of that was probably just accessibility. Like there wasn't a lot of options, and the fact
It
that
was just
we
us.
yeah, it was just us, and for a long time we ran San Diego. We were
Yeah.
kind of like I think both of us were just drowning in the amount of demands that people had, and there weren't other practitioners or let alone quality practitioners that we felt like could share the burden of helping meet everyone's needs. And man, it's so different now where I think about just like Ocean Beach in San Diego. In a mile radius, there's probably 20 people who identify as a Kambo practitioner.
Totally.
And it's so different now. There's a lot more people practicing or at least dabbling. Um, but I wouldn't say that it's like a quality. It's like a lot of people just kind of dabble, right? And they dabbled in their training as well. And there's also more quality practitioners too, but it's just so wild to see how quickly this whole field has evolved and changed. And I think it's inevitable that the energy of Kambo is going to expand and move forward and become more known and reach out to people. And so our jobs as stewards of this medicine is how can we, as gracefully and mindfully as possible, guide this energy and this growth
Yeah.
in a way that is gentle but responsible, because the this medicine's left the jungle. There's nothing we can do about that. And whether we like that or not, that's just a fact. And it has its own agenda. It has its own ideas of how it wants to express itself in the world. And as friends of this medicine, all we can do is support it with as much grace, in helping it find its place in the global world without being bastardized or exploited or becoming chaotic. And we've seen a bit of that in the psychedelic industry. And Kambo is, it's still quite fringe, even for psychonauts, but it's not that far behind. And so we have a tremendous opportunity and responsibility to help guide it in how it is integrated into this new global world that we all occupy.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And that is for me personally, that's one of my driving personal agendas and attachment to the KPC, the Combo Practitioner Collective, where it's like I can't be the combo police, nor do I want to be, because there are tons of dabblers out there, people who are just like, yeah, I learned a little bit in the jungle, or I sat this many times and I started serving, and like I've just moved away from Asheville, North Carolina. I barely served in Asheville. I barely served. And it was partially because there is, in my opinion, there's a really big poverty consciousness in Asheville. And while, especially in the spiritual community, and it's like, while I am willing to do sliding scale and I am willing to accommodate people for where they're at, and there is a point where I'm like, yeah, I'm also not going to do this for $80. I'm just not. I've been doing this for 10 years. Like, I'm really, really good at this. I've put in my 10,000 hours. I've done my continuing education, and in Asheville, at least, like, yeah, I call them cowboys. There are just these like dabblers out there who are like, give me some tinctures and $50 and we'll call it a day, and it's like I wasn't serving as much. And, okay, that's fine. That's okay. But, that's why for me, years ago, I developed that 20 questions to screen and vet your combo practitioner. And then Anora, added some beautiful questions to it. I think maybe some other people did as well, but I know that at least Anora really, she took my initial list and added a lot to it. And it's turned into, I think it's 45 questions to screen and vet your practitioner. And like, that's my flag I want to wave of like, people literally put more time and thought and attention into who is going to remodel their kitchen than who is going to serve them combo. And it's like, this is a sacred responsibility. This can cause harm in the wrong hands. Absolutely. And I think that, for me personally, like it is part of my duty to teach people how to thoroughly, to the point of ruthlessly, screen and vet their practitioners. I have a community I serve in New Hampshire where, again, there's not a lot of people doing this in New Hampshire. There's not a lot of access to it. And one of my clients in New Hampshire, there was a woman serving in Boston, and it was at this healing center, and she had been trained. And I was like, here's the list. Go through the list with her. And she said to me, she was like, Micaiah, she was visibly squirming when I asked her those questions. Like she was so uncomfortable. And I ignored my intuition and I went anyway, and I had a terrible experience. And this was
Oh
a woman
no.
who had been trained, who was serving at a healing center in Boston, and I'm like, when people ask me questions, like they have to get me to shut up. I'm like, like ask away. Like find the holes in my practice, please. Like ask all the questions. I will sit with you for an hour and a half and I won't ask for a dime because I'm just so stoked that someone wants to know more, And that's where it is right now of like we have got to set a standard of service that speaks for itself. And as the Combo Practitioner Collective, which I know there's a lot we're working on as a collective, and there's things that other people in the collective are more passionate about than I am. This is the one thing that I'm like, I am so passionate about this because we are one high profile incident away from this being made illegal in the United States. All it takes is, God forbid, the son of a senator or congressperson goes to a dabbler and has a terrible experience, and with one pen stroke, combo's done, which might be the
Yeah.
best thing for it. I don't know. Like for the frogs themselves. So I think holding a standard of a very, very, very high standard of service myself as a professional practitioner and to train other people to just thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly screen and vet your practitioners. Like, I don't think a single one of those questions on the KPC list is something that someone who has legitimately started a combo practice should not have thought of deeply, in my opinion, deeply. And that's the soapbox I'll get on again and again and again. And that's with combo, that's with a lot of these medicines. There's this, and that goes back into power dynamics too. There's this weird pedestaling of practitioners, of quote unquote shamans or whatever word people put on it, where it's like, it's so, oh, it's really popular right now. It's like, oh, I found a person. We're going to go do Aya. We're going to do Kambo. Like, we found a person, this is going to be this experience. And it's like, well, fucking maybe, or maybe there's some Yahoo, you know? So it's, and I just think education, and I mean, I admire so much what you're so much more visible than I am. Like, I'm not very visible in any of this. I've been pretty much invisible on social media. And like, I got just very spoiled where my practice, I'd be booked for 2 months with word of mouth in San Diego. I didn't have to advertise. So I didn't. Um, but there is a certain that's where I'm interested in really stewarding the future of this, of like we as recipients of Kambo or any other jungle medicine or entheogen, like we need to be so careful and we need to, in my opinion, ruthlessly screen and vet practitioners. Like like those questions for the KPC, you could change a few words and ask them to an Aya facilitator or a mushroom facilitator or anybody, and to ruthlessly screen and vet. And if they won't take the time to answer your questions, you got your answer right there. Period. I get stoked when people ask questions and nobody ever does it. It's crazy. Like, and I have a lot of information out there. Like when my clients get with me, it's like, here's everything, and call me if you want. But yeah, I think that's really the big thing of like, we need to set a standard, which we are doing, and we need how to get educational resources out there enough so that other people know what standard they should be setting for their practitioner as well. And it needs to be way freaking higher than it is right now, in my opinion. Like way freaking higher. It's kind of a mess out there, in my opinion, right now. With people who are just untrained or poorly trained or people that only got trained in the jungle. I think that that's an issue as well. It's a different world. Like the indigenous way is incredible, and I've learned so much from it, and I respect the source of this medicine, and it is absolutely not appropriate for a lot of Western clients. Absolutely not appropriate. So it's about, again, like I talked about, like all the if Kambo is an art, which to some degree it is, it's really a craft. It's the merger of a science and an art. Then we as practitioners need to learn a broad palette to work with, so that we can create many different outcomes with this. And jungle training is one way to do that, and Western training is one way to do that. But again, it's like it's with anything else. It just comes down to devotion. And you and I have devoted ourselves to this in a way that not a lot of people do, because it's hard and sometimes the reward seems slim and the risk seems great,
Yes.
and it can be a lot on the body, and there's a lot to. That's why I said to take it as far as we have taken it, you're either a click off or it's truly a calling. you know but it's just, and I agree with everything you said, where it's just like the great mystery of it. I call it the intelligence. The intelligence of this medicine, I do not understand. After almost, I mean, what are we on, like 20, like, it's like almost 11 years of work, almost 12 years of like working with it, receiving with it, over 10 years of serving now. Um, it blows my mind. It blows my fucking mind to this day, every time. And every time I receive it, my new thing now is just sitting for a really long time. I just sit for a really long time. I'll sit for an hour, no problem. Just layer myself, just like sit, a little point here, a little point there, and to just like see how much I can get out of how little. Because really going down to the jungle with you, like, and really, and being with Johnny Java too, a man that I feel that we both look at as a teacher and a maestro. The amount of I bow at that man's presence. Like what the way he holds combo. Where I'm like now I'm like we're gonna do least effective dose and we're gonna sit with it for a long, long time because this is precious, 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 precious. That's where I'm at right now with my practice, like getting every little last drop out of the medicine, out of every single point is a it's a sacrament. It's a sacrament, and we're so lucky to have it. And I do not take it for granted for a second, and I know you don't either. You know, just like it blows my mind. It blows my mind to just have this in my back pocket whenever I want to. Like, oh my God, what a gift. What a gift. So I just went on a rant there.
I
Apologies.
loved it. Loved every second. Yeah, Kambo is so precious. And I think especially that's where time in the jungle can really add a lot of perspective when you see how much energy and risk. I mean, I'm not crawling up a 40-foot tree in the middle of the night with scorpions
Yeah,
and snakes and bugs and shit to catch a frog that, maybe has enough medicine for two people or not at
yeah,
all, right? It really puts it in perspective how precious this medicine is and what a privilege it is, especially when you can have such kind of casual access to it. I think that's something that is not emphasized enough in today's Amazon Prime culture. Not
totally.
the Amazon, but Amazon, Bezos Amazon. And yeah, I agree also that I really do feel that education is the antidote to a lot of the harms and the kind of hairy territory that we may be entering with Kambo. Not just even educating practitioners, which I think is important, and helping sort of inspire them to operate at a certain standard. But there will always be people who want to take the shortcuts, who don't value greatness, who don't have the attention span or the devotion or whatever. There's always going to be those people. So I think actually more important is to teach discernment in the
Hmm.
the recipients, right? Because they're the
Couldn't agree more.
ones they're the ones that actually affect the market, right? And
Yeah.
so if they are educated enough that they then can, identify whether a practitioner is qualified or a good fit for them or, practicing safely, then they're going to start to skew the market in favor of good quality practitioners. And what will happen is
Hmm.
these other people who were a bit of, the renegade, whatever, the dabblers, they're not going to stay busy. They're not going to have the momentum carried through because people are going to learn and realize, like, one, there's no scarcity of practitioners now. Like, you have choice. You don't have to just go with whoever exists in your area. But also, like, yeah, like, if this person is not meeting the standards that they've been exposed to by certain documents like the KPC question list, or even just like kind of in some of these like short little videos and posts and blurbs and stuff that we can put out there, then we've done a good job at actually empowering the public. And I think that is important because ignorance and naivety is really the biggest risk here. So the more that we can just put information out there, the more we can empower the people to shape the future of Kambo.
I could not agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I just went back to San Diego for the first time in a year and a half. And the number of people, like, I couldn't serve everyone that wanted medicine from me. And the number of people who were like, I haven't sat with anyone since you left because I just, like, you left and I didn't really, you left and, what's her name? Aluna left. And, my friend Layla's there, like, intermittently here and there. And then I was like,
Yeah.
those are the only three people that I know well enough and know their practice well enough to refer people to. Because I don't know these other people and I don't know their practices, and I would never send people. I have no idea who they are. And, to go back to San Diego and have people be like, yeah, I just haven't had medicine in a year and a half because you haven't been around. And be like, whoa, like I'm flattered. And whoa, you
Hmm.
know, um,
Bless
I,
them.
yeah, it's looking very, very likely that I'll be moving back to San Diego in the next couple of months, and I'm just super curious to see what my practice ends up looking like because it doesn't. I asked around here and there. I was like, and she's like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like there's no Caitlin or Micaiah in town. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem like there's anybody that's like, oh, they've got the practice. It doesn't. Even in
Mm,
LA, like I have a friend in LA who She refers people out to Natasha Berg, who's got a wonderful practice, and I've sent people to Natasha and feel confident and comfortable doing so. But she's like, yeah, even in LA, she's like, I don't know who to send people to. She's like, if you move back and come to LA, I'll keep you busy for weeks. It's like, oh, okay. You know? So, but yeah, I agree. It's the education piece. It's absolutely the education piece because a lot of people just don't know any better. And I just think again, like the way that we can hold it and the way that we can talk about it, like even very, very, very recently, very experienced people in the Aya world who are good friends of mine who only experienced Kambo in the jungle. And they're like, I will never in a million years do that shit again. I felt like I was just hanging on for dear life the whole time. And I was like, what if I told you it could be gentle and sweet? And they're like,
Mhm.
what? I'm like, it can. Like, it's super feminine too. It's super soft too. It's endearing. It cares. There's so much more to it. And that's my whole thing. Like, I want people to be able to meet the spirit in my practice, not to hang on for dear life like they got through something. What the fuck is the point of that?
Yeah.
Um, so again, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like setting the example ourselves. I think the KPC is a great step forward and just educating people of like this is what you need to look for in a practitioner. This is what you need to ask your practitioner. This is the standard you need to set for yourself because there's an energetic exchange. There is a transfer of energy even down to receiving hape. I'll educate people on that simple fact. I'm like, you are inhaling this person's breath. Who are they? Who are they? Who is serving you? There's an energetic transfer here. And it's again, that's why clean and clear, like holding that standard for ourselves as practitioners so that people get the most out of the practice and out of the medicine as well. It demands the best of us as practitioners. And I know that you know that. I'm preaching to the choir with that, but it really does. It's a lot.
Yeah, totally. Well, I want to go ahead and wrap up this conversation as fun as it is. You and I could talk for weeks
Totally.
probably
Talk
about, and
forever.
we've tested the theory. Um, so yeah, how can people connect with you and stay in touch or learn more about your work?
The best way is my Instagram, which is Micaiah Deull. It's just my MicaiahDeull, or my webpage, which is combofrog.com. But Instagram's probably the best to get like currently, where I'm at, what I'm doing, et cetera, et cetera.
Cool. Yeah, and you also mentioned that list of questions to ask a practitioner if you're kind of exploring doing Kambo. Do you have a way of kind of referencing where people can locate that?
Yeah, I believe on the KPC Instagram, I believe it's up on that. I have the original. I should probably get the KPC list and republish it on my Instagram. I have the original list as a post on my Instagram, so anybody could reach out to me personally, and I would send that to them.
Okay, so yeah, so it seems like, either going to Micaiah's Instagram directly, or you can also check out the Combo Practitioner Collective. I think that's the handle on Instagram.
Hmm.
There's also the website is combopractitionercollective.com, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah, I imagine that there's some sort of link to it or something up there. But yeah, what what a like broad but also like woven in beautifully discussion that we've had here. And I think we touched on some like really vital topics, some of which don't get addressed very often. And yeah, it's just such a joy to talk about these things with someone that I have such deep respect for and rapport as well, and shared experiences with. So it's really been a joy to connect in this conversation, Micaiah.
Absolutely mutual, and it's so good to just chat about our favorite thing, right? We are combo nerds. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your platform.
Likewise, my friend. All right. Well, thank you to all our listeners, and please, follow, stay tuned for more Frogcast episodes where we have combo convos about really anything that's tangentially related to combo. We are willing to go there. So thanks for tuning in, and we hope to catch you next time.